We've all heard of cover buying a book before, but what about title buying a book? Hello, my name is Julie, and I have not cover bought a book in a while, but I have definitely added several books to my TBR simply based off of the title and the title alone. I did not need to know any other information about this thing to know that I needed it in my hands and in my brain. So over the course of the next roughly a week, I am going to be reading 3 books that once I heard the title, I needed to read it. I didn't need to see the cover, even though sometimes I did. I didn't need to hear the synopsis, even though I later looked it up. Whatever. I knew I was going to love this book from the second that I heard the title. I think that I'm more interested in a title buy than a cover buy because the author actually picked the title versus an illustrator was hired to do the cover and the author only had so much power over it. So I think like a really interesting title is going to have more to say than a really cool cover. And we all know I love weird books, so if I see a weird title, I kind of want to have it. And I do think the books here are generally representative of the type of books I see with weird attention-grabbing titles. But let me show you the books that I'm going to be reading. First, I have Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Basterrica. This is a novel translated from Spanish, and it is a dystopian horror about a world in which a virus has made it so that all meat is inedible to humans. So people have turned to eating other people. There's like a caste of people who are just essentially raised as stock and people eat them. And our main character works, I believe, in a factory that produces this, and he ends up being gifted a person who is a stock and meant to be eaten. I think this is going to be super unsettling, and I hope I love it. I'm probably not going to be able to eat meat for a bit after this, which, I mean, I don't eat a lot of it anyway. I heard this title and I'm like, this is the kind of like gut punch that I want. The second book that I'm going to be reading is the purest example I have ever experienced of hearing a title and adding it to my cart. And that is Someone Who Will Love You in All Your Damaged Glory by Raphael Bob Waksberg. So I saw this on an Instagram post on my Explore page with a glowing review. I did not even look at the review. I went straight to Goodreads and I added it to my TBR. And then maybe like a week later when I was looking at it again, I noticed that it is written by the creator of one of my favorite TV shows of all time, my sister's favorite TV show of all time, and that's BoJack Horseman, which if you haven't watched it, it's incredible. It could be the best animated show ever made, and it's generally a tragicomedy, and this is also described in a similar way. All I know is it's a collection of short stories that will break your heart and put it back together again. Like one of these stories says it's about a pair of lonely commuters who will ride the subway in silence forever. And one of them is about an engaged couple that has too many ritual goat sacrifices at their wedding. And there's also a story in here I know my sister loved that's from the perspective of a dog. I'm gonna adore this. And lastly, we have the May pick for my book club, 3 of Clubs. The Discord is down in the description, as is the Instagram, and that is In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. When I saw this on Books and Lala's channel for the first time, I immediately added it to my cart, and then I continue watching the video, and then she gave it 5 stars, and I'm like, absolutely, I need this in my life. This is about a group of 6 friends from college who have a reunion, but when they were in college, one of their friends got murdered, and things are resurfacing about that. I have heard it compared to Heathers, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. I have heard just everybody giving this glowing reviews, never knowing what was coming next, never knowing who was the murderer, who did it. And I don't know how much mystery, thriller, or horror this is, but I'm excited. All of these books are on the shorter side, which makes sense because short story collections and horror are usually shorter than the average book I read, but that means it should be easy to get through these in the week, because next week is Friendathon, my readathon. I am going to be reading In My Dreams for that, as well as the book club, so I'm planning on finishing this next Friday, and reading these two in the interim. And Becca's Bookopalathon, the 48-hour edition, is actually this weekend. So I am going to be reading one of these two for the prompt of reading a book under 300 pages. And I just want to read as much as I can because I just came out of not really a reading slump, but I wasn't able to physically read very much at a time. I just kept getting distracted. So I have high hopes for every single one of these. My guess is that I'm going to be okay with Tender in the Flesh. This is a short story collection, so I'm probably going to give it like a 4.5, like love some stories and be okay with others. And In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife has been one of my 5-star predictions since I heard it. So today I am going to be meeting up with two of my friends. One of my long distance friends who I haven't seen in forever is taking me out for drinks for my 21st birthday, and we'll get to catch up for a while. Very excited. And then tonight, me and my other friend who's about to leave for Italy are going out to a bar. So in the time before that, I am going to read a couple of stories from Someone Who Will Love You, and if I get that done and get the other things that I need to do for the day done, I am going to start on Tender as the Flesh. So let's get started on these title buys. I know I didn't buy all of them. In fact, I only bought one of them, but I'm still gonna call them title buys. Okay, it's 5 minutes later and I've just sat down to read a story from this or two. Let's talk about the titles of these short stories. The first one is called Salted Citrus Cashews Swear to God. I'm fucking crying laughing. These Are Facts, We Men of Science, Lunch with the Person Who Dumped You. This is gonna be so good. This is gonna be so good. Okay, so I read the first 40 pages of this. That was the first 3 stories. The first 2 were literally just the front and back of a page each. One was the peanuts one, the citrus nuts. That one was funny and then immediately turned into like a metaphor, and I'm like, this is what I love this guy for. And then the next one was a list of like a couple sentence short stories that were just like ironic or thought-provoking, mainly to do with like relationships and how we perceive other people. And then the next one was the one that is mentioned on the back that is about goat sacrifices at a wedding. And it's just like these people are being pressured to have this really extravagant wedding with like ritual sacrifices. And it keeps getting more and more ridiculous, and we're supposed to just like go along with all these things that are weird, but it's like to another culture, like all our stuff would seem weird. I genuinely laughed out loud at one of the bits, so I'm going to now pick up a little bit of Tender as the Flesh and I'll probably read like 50 pages of this or something like that, and then I'm gonna do school or work stuff before I go to brunch. Hello vlog. So yesterday was just one of the funnest days that I've had in a while, and it was a wonderful time. Avina took me to Bittersweet, which is a local dessert bar, and we had just the most beautiful desserts I've ever seen, and they had really cool cocktails. And it was a strawberry rhubarb drink, and then I got a Strong Island, and I had 2 of those. Oh my god, incredible. Then I came home, read a little bit more, and then I got ready to go out, and Natalie and I went to a bar where they were playing live music. All the music they were playing was good, and I, got to have drinks at a bar for the first time, and everything was great. There were some guys that we were talking to. It was just a really fun time, and then I had my friend pick me up, and I just went to bed, had the best sleep ever. I just made just a fantastic grilled cheese. I'm just in such a good mood. But let me update you on my books. So I read Misconnection, which is the story about two people on a subway who never talk. And then I read The Serial Monogamous Guide to Important New York City Landmarks. The wedding one has been the longest so far, and it has been my favorite, but there's been nothing that I've not liked, and I do think these kind of match each other in tone, so it's been a good collection so far. But I honestly don't want to like just brush through this. I want to take it bits and pieces at a time, which is kind of a good thing because this book is a lot. I knew that this book was going to be unsettling, but I didn't realize how unsettling or how hard it is going to be for me to read this. Because yeah, it's going into great depth how people are being eaten and like how they're being treated like animals are being treated now, and it's really rough. This is a book that I think is important to read, but I want it to be over with, and I want to have had read it. The writing is really simple, and I don't know how much of that would come from the translation, but it definitely 100% gives me 1984 vibes, or Brave New World probably a little bit more. This is gonna be difficult, so going back and forth between these two is honestly a good idea. But if I really want to like binge read something, I should pick up something else. But I also have to hold off on Dreams because I can't finish it until Friendathon, and it's just lots of things are happening. But all I want to do is read and chill out. I need to pack, and I'm going to go to the library to pick up some books, and then I'm gonna go home. A lot of things happened yesterday. A lot of things are happening tomorrow, so today is my break day. I know more Becca's Bookathon stuff is going on. I haven't checked what the new prompt is. Ooh, should I do that? Should I do that on camera? The first prompts were a short book, so under 300 pages, and or gods. None of these 3 books have to do with gods, and then I have 2 audiobooks that I can listen to. None of those have to do with gods, so prompt 3 is ebook or audiobook. I can do that, and I was planning on listening to an audiobook in the car. So we'll see how long Iron Widow is, and we'll see if I like the narrator. I'll try that out and I see if I want to continue doing that. But prompt 4 was a book with a color in the title. Can I be like old Crayola and call flesh a color, even though flesh isn't always a color? Iron is a color, Iron Widow. Okay, so one of my audiobooks could be for color. And have we gotten to 5 or 6? Okay, we have not. So I think I am going to write a book review, and then I am going to read, and then I'll head out and I'll take you to my library too. I have so many books right now. It's absolutely insane. I'm treating myself, and this looks fucking fabulous. Hello and welcome to my childhood bedroom. It is the evening after I last talked to you. Today was my family party for my 21st birthday, so people came over earlier than I was expecting, so I didn't get a chance to update you before people even got here. But last night I did end up finishing Tender is the Flesh. This book got, once I understood how far this book was going to go, and I was more equipped to read it, so I ended up probably finishing the last half. I think that was just in one sitting, and I definitely was surprised by the very ending. Like the last page, there was just, it wasn't, I wouldn't go so far as to say a twist, but it's certainly something that I wasn't necessarily expecting. That honestly made it even darker. Our character that we're following and just the way that this is set up really does remind me, like I've mentioned before, Brave New World or 1984, that sort of the way, just the way that is written, the way who the way that it's written, the type of character we're following, and the world that we're seeing, the type of characters they interact with as well. Like say more happens in those other books, but this one, I don't think it needed to have a big huge plot to get where it was going. I really want to read up more on the author and what she said about this book, because like this is about eating people. So it is really upsetting, and there is the takeaway of like, we're doing this to animals and that's cruel. And there's the takeaway of people will excuse any cruelty as long as it doesn't apply to them. And I'm sure both of them are things that we're supposed to get out of it, but I would like to see what the author herself has said about this book. What am I even going to rate it? I don't know. I certainly can't say that I enjoyed it. I feel the same way about this book as I do those books that I had to read in high school, that like, I can't really rate it, but it's definitely something you can pull apart and point at certain things. And I think the reason that this was put under horror is because, like, if you had put this book in the literary fiction section, it would upset a lot of people that they're reading the things that they are. It's a really, really terrible setup, but it's not structured like a horror book. So our main character, Marcos, works at a plant where they are processing people. So they get them from breeding places, and then it's brought to the plant where it's like they cut it up and create the meat. So terrible, and I don't want to talk about it, but so in a Brave New World kind of way, we go through and see the actual process. Like, we see the breeding place, and then we go through and see what the factory is like. Him and his wife had a baby, and they lost the child to SIDS, so she is staying with her mother, and they probably aren't going to get back together because they're just so distraught over the loss of their son, and he is trying to get over that. His father's also in a retirement home and is kind of losing it. He's really not there anymore, and his sister doesn't care, so he's the only one taking care of his dad. So he's in a bad place in his life, on top of being more aware of the atrocities that are being committed around him than a lot of people around him seem to be. After he goes to the breeding place, he has to talk to them about something that they messed up, so they end up sending him his own person, who is a first generation. So she's 20. So 20 years ago, they started breeding their own humans. So that means that this transition, as they call it, from eating animals to people happened around 21, 22 years ago. I'm 21. So he is given this female and like keeps her in his barn for a while, and it's just like, well, I don't know what to do with this. I don't want her. And having this person who relies on him and has been taken away from society and can't take care of herself because of the way that she has been raised in captivity, and her vocal cords have been taken out. She doesn't understand like most of the things going on around her just because she's been, in a box essentially her whole life. He starts thinking even more about the atrocities that he's already very aware of. It's a good book. It's just, it was so awful to read at times that I would not personally recommend this to anybody. If somebody hears that premise of this book, that it's about cannibalism, and thinks this is a book that I'm interested in, go for it, but I will never push this onto somebody. I think if you do really love those Orwellian classics, it's something that you got a lot out of. I think those are comp titles for this. I'm really glad it's over and will never ever reread it. So now I'm moving on to the rest of Someone Who Will Love You. I've read about a third of the book, at least like a third of the stories. I think the most of the ones that I've read so far have been the shorter ones, and I think I'm in the middle of what seems to be one of the longer ones. I talked to my sister about what her favorites were, and with the exception of one, all of her favorites have been in the parts that I've already read. So I'd be interested to see if I say the same thing. She did read the second half in one sitting though. I've been talking for too long because that book was really super difficult to talk about, and now this next book is going to be hard to talk about, but for a completely different reason. Hello again, vlog. We're in the same place we were yesterday. This morning, first thing I allowed myself to do was finish Someone Who Will Love You in All Your Damaged Glory. So I do think I generally agree with my sister that there were more stories that I liked toward the beginning than toward the end, but I think we just have an eclectic bunch of things. We do have some stories that are in the 40 pages, and then we have quite a few that are only a couple pages long. And it definitely gave me the same sense of tragicomedy that we got from BoJack Horseman. Characters are put in all these strange positions. People who are planning a wedding with extremely strange things and rituals. Then we have a band who aren't very popular or anything, and then they get struck by lightning and get superpowers, but that's like not the point of the story, and they're all normal people trying to figure out their relationships, but stuff keeps getting in the way. So they keep having all these conversations about, oh, you should go out with him, like while they're fighting aliens. And then also a guy who plays Chester A. Arthur at a Presidents of the United States theme park. It's strange stuff. But all of it get the same vibes of people just trying to deal with the ups and downs of life, and like how being in relationships, both romantic and not, is really difficult. So I did enjoy this. I don't know how I would rate this one either, because it's a short story collection, and also because some of them are so short. I'd probably give these two a 4, and that means that every single book that I've read this month was a 4-star. I finished the book, I updated my spreadsheet, I updated my Goodreads, I posted on Instagram and updated that, and then on top of that, I just got a email that they want to talk to me about an internship, so hopefully I won't have to be doing my work study this summer. I am going to be updating a couple other videos that I'm doing, maybe edit a video, and honestly I need to reorganize my bookshelf because since I was at the apartment I didn't get to do my annual reorganization in January, and now everything is everywhere and it's kind of stressing me out being in this room. I am debating whether I am going to start Dreams today or wait a couple days, but either way, you're gonna see me when I have. Hello vlog. It's I think 2 days later. Couple of things. One, I got the job. I got that job. I thought I would literally have like an interview or whatever. No, they called me like an hour after my last clip and I got it. I am about 50% of the way through In My Dreams. I hold a knife and I am obsessed with this book. I fucking knew that this would be a 5-star prediction for me. Literally from the very first line, this was already like one of my favorite books of the year. The first line is, "Your body has a knowing." And I just, I knew I was gonna be so obsessed with this that I started annotating it. Just like underlining very lightly in pencil because I'm neurotic, but I have never done that before. Oh my god, this is the exact same feeling that I had while listening to If We Were Villains, but we have a more, I don't know, conniving or less innocent main character, and it's a little bit more rich people and people wanting to be rich people instead of Shakespeare, which I love both of those things. The main character kind of gives me the vibes of Jane in The Wife Upstairs. But our main character, Jess, has always thought of herself as really normal, and she cannot stand that. She's always getting like second place, and she just wants to be special. And she will do anything to be seen as the best or desirable. This group of friends who meet their freshman year and are just stuck like glue to each other, and they all have all these secrets, and then senior year, one of them is murdered, and now that we're at the reunion, the younger brother of their murdered friend is confronting them, saying that one of you did it. It does feel a little Agatha Christie in the way that I know that the fingers are going to be pointed at every single person. Were I to say who I think did it at this point, I'm gonna say our main character. I think our main character did it. Like, I just from how she has been set up as a character, I feel like this is another one of those like unhinged woman type stories. There's a relationship in here that I am low-key obsessed with, and I just want them to be together, and I know it's not gonna happen. And every little bit that we are learning about this is making me more and more obsessed, and I don't know that I will be able to put this book down, period. The first half of the book has all taken place over one day, when it's like the first day of the homecoming, and then we've had flashbacks. We've had a couple of chapters that are actually from the perspective of other characters other than Jess, and now the second day is like the homecoming thing, and they're gonna confront one of their friends. Also, this takes place in North Carolina. It takes place at a ripoff of Wake Forest University, which is really funny because personal hatred for them, but love some North Carolina rep. I love how many books that I've read in the last like 2 years that are from North Carolina and I didn't know about it, and I'm just and I have tagged the author in a couple of things and she's noticed, so I cannot wait to give a glowing 5-star "this is my favorite book I've read this year" review, and her to see it, just to like give this girl the ego boost that she needs. So this is her debut, but she has a novel coming out called The Last Housewife, and you bet your ass I'm going to read it. I am so in love with this. We've not had a specific reference to the title, which I will be interested to see, but oh boy, this has been the treat that I needed. I haven't had a book this year that has had a grip on me like this one has. I'm so glad I picked this for the book club. I'm so excited. On the road again. You know that part of Shrek where Donkey's singing that "on the road again" song? That's how I fucking feel. Alright, so it is yet another day of me driving basically across the goddamn state for no fucking reason. So, you know how I just got that new job? Well, I'm gonna have to try. It's even further than my last job was, and I still haven't found housing. I have a lot to do, so I just deposited a check, and now I have to drive a couple counties over to go to this office, because I tried going yesterday. I thought I could just go anywhere, and no, I have to go, because they're like, oh, there's one that's closer to you, so I figured that there was only like 2 of these temp agencies, but no. So I went to the closest one, which just happened to be the wrong one, but it was too late for me to go to the other one, so it's whatever. So now I have to drive an hour, and then I move back into my apartment. then I'm going to a hockey game later. But it is just a nice summer day, and all I want to do is lay by the pool and finish in my dreams. But no, we can't get everything that we want. But Dreams is going so fucking well. I read a little bit more since I last updated you. I think the way that it's structured when it comes to like the mystery is pretty simple, because we've got Eric who's confronting everybody. He'll give one piece of evidence, and then everyone will look to that person and be like, "You did it!" And then he'll be like, "No, because this reason." And then they're like, "Oh," and then he's like, "Another piece of evidence. You must have done it," everyone says. And then they're like, "Oh, I must have. I contributed in this way." And then he's like, "But that's not how she died." And it's like, God, I want to go right. Can I go right? We're doing it. We're turning. Oh God, I hate it here. I don't think have I ever made this turn? I don't know, you don't usually go that way. So on my drive, I'm gonna listen to a little bit of Taylor Swift, and then I'm gonna knock out like a good portion of Iron Widow. I'm listening to it on like 2.3 speed, so I'm 80% of the way through, so it wouldn't surprise me if I finished it today. I could very easily finish In My Dreams today, but I need to finish it for Friendathon, which starts tomorrow. So if I wanted to read any more today, I'm going to probably pick up Death in Our Hands. So, and then I guess I'll just like leave that until June. I don't really know what I'm doing. Yeah, that's it. Let's go to Clayton. It's after midnight, so I can finally finish In My Dreams. I'm so fucking excited. I'm gonna rate this a million bajillion stars. Y'all aren't even fucking ready. Hey, I know I look a little rough right now, but I slept in really late and I need to get this update over with. I told you that I fucking love this book. This is my favorite book I read this year. This is if Bunny and If We Were Villains had a baby. We have all these characters who are best friends at this rich university that's supposed to be Wake Forest University, and they're just like toxic. And I really liked all of their dynamics, particularly Coop and Jess, our main character. That was definitely my favorite part. I honestly, if I could have gotten like 100 pages more of all of their relationships, I would have loved it. I have never wanted to annotate a book on the first time I read it, but I did it with this and it was a fantastic experience, and I can't wait to just talk about this endlessly. I really loved the writing style, the dark academia vibes, just the everything. Like there truthfully was not a part that I didn't love. Hello, future Julie here. It's like 2 weeks later and I am editing this video and just got off of a Zoom interview that a podcast was holding with Ashley Winstead, the author of Dreams. And I just wanted to share with you a note that I made because people asked about the title of the book. And she said that the original title that she sold the book as was East House 7. But when it was time to actually release stuff about the book, the publisher was like, absolutely not, we need a new title. She sent the publisher likely over 300 different titles and nothing stuck. And then when she went back and reread the book, she would always write Jess's characterization as being stabbing. There was a lot of knife and sword and sharp imagery around things that happened with Jess, and also how Jess seems to have this weight. She seems to always be looking over her shoulder, and there seems to be a sort of Damocles over her head. So she said from that sort of thought process, In My Dreams, I Hold a Knife came like fully fledged out of her head. So I thought that was a little background that would be super important to this vlog because I am absolutely obsessed with this title and the insight behind the title because so many people are confused about the knife. The knife is entirely metaphorical because the murder weapon was scissors, and scissors are on the cover. So as for this vlog, we're done. So obviously I gave In My Dreams, that was a fantastic 5-star, top of the top 5-star. Someone Who Will Love You, I think I would give that in like a 3.5, 4-star. I kind of found it a little bit difficult to rate because not all of them were like proper stories. It was a lot of like thoughts, and some of them were stories. I don't know, but I would give it in there. So that was a little bit, it wasn't a disappointment, but like I wasn't as obsessed as I thought I was gonna be. And then Tender as the Flesh was way more hard-hitting than I thought, and honestly like there was like more literary merit to it than I thought. Like this, I could see this paired with all those modern classics. So I don't think I mentioned Tender as the Flesh. I know I mentioned that Tender as the Flesh is translated from Spanish, but the direct translation of the title in Spanish is Exquisite Corpse. And I do believe it is a reference to the game because they make reference to the game in the book. But yeah, like Exquisite Corpse or Tender as the Flesh, I think both of them give a very good vibe of that book. So what did I learn? I do think the title of these books did really give me a very good vibe for what it was going for. And I want to do this again, honestly. Like, let me know whether you'd rather me do a direct sequel to this or an opposite to this. Should I do pretty covers next, or should I do another titles since it went so well? Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know down below any of your thoughts. I'd love to hear them. I'd love to talk to you. And as always, I will see you in the next one.